from his victory speech. Take a listen to this.
Your hands. My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty.
I think that part's important to stop and say why I think, regardless of my feelings on a democratic socialist and his policies, one of the main reasons that he won is because people are pent up around the whole country of the status quo. In New York, things are ridiculously expensive and people just wanted something different. Regardless of this, if whether or not his policies are going to be the right move forward, he filled something that a lot of New Yorkers felt like they needed, which was change. Andrew Cuomo, he kept repeating more of the same thing, and he used a lot of fear tactics as to why people simply shouldn't vote for him. There didn't seem to be anything that actually showed that he was going to actually change anything. His entire campaign seemed just to attack Zohran Mamdani, and ultimately that's really why it seems like he won. However, a lot of people are still very upset with this. Take a listen, or take a read at this one here. Lauren Chen, 81% of young women voted for a literal communist, but the right has spent the past few weeks attacking young men as the problem. A lot of people on the right say he is a literal communist. What I will say is that conservatives on X have been quoting a tweet he used from quoting a communist quote he wrote previously back in 2020 as the reasoning as to why that's the case. But let's go ahead and go through some X posts here of what other people had to say. Here, let me just go ahead and quickly zoom into this. Honestly, I think that, New York wanted change. He received over 1 million votes. That was at the count when he had 86% of the votes. So that alone is that alone is record breaking. It's been a long time since there was such a turnout like that. And it just goes to show that people just are sick of the status quo, honestly. So let's see here. Let me zoom into this so you guys can see it better. I think that's good. I could just go ahead and do that. Adam Carlson. Zohran Mamdani is the first New York candidate to win 1 million votes since 1969. And 12% of the vote is still out. That's pretty insane there. This was one that vote was at 88%. I haven't checked it out recently. And then we have Andrew Cuomo, 831,000. Curtis Sliwa, 143,000. So pretty crazy stuff. Let's see. Mamdani, Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words. Turn up the volume. Let's go ahead and take a listen to this clip here because it was pretty impactful.
So Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
And the crowd goes cheering. So after this clip here, or just in general, the victory speech, let's see if I saved it here. I do want to go through a lot of these other tweets as well. It might be this one. No, it's not. Anyways, it was something. There it is. CNN's Van Jones said was not a fan of Zohran Mamdani's angry far-left rage-filled victory speech, as he says it is. And this is why.
Who was a lot more embracing. I think the Mamdani that we saw on the campaign trail, who was a lot more calm, who was a lot warmer, who was a lot more embracing, was not present in that speech. And I think that Mamdani is the one you need to hear from tonight. There are a lot of people trying to figure out, can I get on this train with him or not? Is he going to include me? Is he going to?
Which it's a pretty interesting response coming from somebody who's more, a democratic, but that's what it was. And then I already read that Lauren Chen tweet. I am particularly interested, and I haven't looked yet. I'm so excited to see Ben Shapiro go on just a rage-filled social media storm. Looking forward to that. Saw Randy Fine post a little bit too. Honestly, did relish a little bit in that. So that was great. Let's see what else is going on here. Jewish Voices. Hardest congratulations and mazel tov to New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani. We are proud to endorse you and look forward to your leadership, vision, and collaboration for the betterment of our community and all New Yorkers. this is what's so interesting is that we had Donald Trump and we actually had I can't remember his name, the guy that's in charge of the task force to combat anti-Semitism in the Trump administration. Both of them went on social media. Donald Trump saying they're stupid people if they vote for Zohran Mamdani and they're Jewish. The head of the head of the department to combat anti-Semitism said 30% New York, 30% of Jewish voters. What's going on with you? It seems honestly that telling a certain people that they have to vote a certain way in of itself is anti-Semitic. If you really wanted to say the truth of it, kind of sounds like that same trope that they have that Democrats use for black people when they say you have to vote. Why are you not voting? Why are you voting Republican? It doesn't benefit you as a black person. And then we have Candace Owens always talking about how that just upsets her. When you ever try to put any type of person in a group and tell them this is how you should vote, you end up upsetting a lot of people. So that's what I found was pretty interesting about that. Here's another clip from Mamdani. Let's take a listen to this one.
New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant.
There it is, and the crowd goes cheering again. Let's see what else is here. APAC Tracker. If you guys don't follow this account on X, I actually love it. It'll just comment on politicians' account and tell you how much they're getting backed by Israel. Of course, they're giving a big congratulations to them. Let's see. Here it is. This is what I was kind of looking to share. The Bill Ackman rampage. So Bill Ackman, as you guys know, he's known to write like dissertations. I'm not kidding, dissertations on social media. Just going on a rampage, whether about Zohran Mamdani or otherwise. But he definitely took a lot of time to make sure he rants about Zohran Mamdani. Again, my feelings aside on whether I think democratic socialism is going to be a good policy move moving forward, Bill Ackman has been just going on a hate storm on Zohran. And then, of course, 11 hours ago, he says, congrats on the win. Now you have a big responsibility. If I can help NYC, just let me know what I can do. Just it kind of seems ridiculous after just hating on him. And then just an hour prior to that, he was saying that he disagrees with somebody, that he's so upset with Sliwa saying in the race because he split the vote. Sliwa saying in convinced so many Cuomo voters it was a foregone conclusion, so they didn't vote. If Sliwa had dropped, Cuomo would have won. That's a pretty interesting assertion. I don't know what evidence he really has to back that. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. And then again, Torah Jews, which is an anti-Zionist Jewish account, knows Zohran Mamdani is not a threat to the NYC Jewish community. We strongly oppose these division efforts to conflate the identity of Jewish New Yorkers and the state of Israel. And then here it says basically the same thing. The Jewish communities in New York City and across the United States do not base their voting decisions on foreign interests, specifically those of the Israeli government. So this is why I was saying it's so interesting that we have the lead of the organization to combat anti-Semitism asking Jewish people, what on earth are you guys doing? Basically, it seems like it's pulling the trope of dual loyalty. Because they say, it's anti-Semitic to talk about dual loyalty, but then the same people who say that then go out, like Donald Trump saying, "Oh, Jewish New Yorkers, you're stupid if you vote for him." The thing is, though, and I don't want to just be like this is a Republican thing, because the Democrats do this too. Whenever a black person decides to vote Republican, which is what Candace Owens has talked a lot about. Whenever I'm Palestinian, if I see a Palestinian deciding to be very conservative, you'll get that. So minorities also have a lot of pressure to only make sure they vote Democrat. The Jewish minority is a little bit different because, of course, the right is a lot more pro-Israel right now than the left. But this is something that the more you tell people to do something, a certain thing, the more they want to do the exact opposite. So I think there's a little bit of that in there, which I think is it's pretty interesting. And then let's see here. I already read this one out. And then again, we go back to this one, which is Zohran Mamdani is the first to win 1 million votes. So when 1 million votes were in, and this was at 88%, Curtis Sliwa had 143,000. So now let's say Andrew Cuomo, Curtis Sliwa did not even run. And Andrew Cuomo instead decided, just got all of those votes that Curtis Sliwa would have gotten. Let's see what that number would have been. So if we add up those votes together, because Bill Ackman is talking about how they wouldn't have split, Zohran Mamdani would have still won, because it only ends up being like, there we go, 975,000 votes. So I'm glad that Zohran Mamdani got the majority there, because I think it's kind of one of those things where if he didn't, people would have kept using that. Bill Ackman says, a lot of people stayed in, which is why he won the majority. I don't know if that's true or not. You really can't just say that without any sort of evidence there. And then let's see. I think that's mainly all the votes, all of the tweets I saved. Oh, James Lee, really like this guy's take on a lot of things. Say what you will, but New Yorkers love Mamdani. The results reflect that enthusiasm. Ultimately, Americans feel the system is broken and want change, whatever that might look like. This part, I definitely, well, actually, the whole thing, I mean, a lot of New Yorkers were super enthusiastic, but ultimately, Americans feel the system is broken and want change, whatever that might look like. That's 100% true. And I think that's what so many people just don't understand recently, is that, especially on the right, if the right wants more left-wing voters to switch to the right. And the same thing with Democrats. You can't just call the other side stupid. And this is something we see over and over again. You call the other side stupid, you vilify the other side, whether you're on the left and your right, or the right. And when you go ahead and do that, you're actually losing out on people that would have actually considered your opinion, and you could have actually convinced them, but you immediately shut people off when you call them stupid. There are actual concerns that not just New Yorkers, but a lot of American citizens feel, especially the younger generation. And this is why we're seeing both. This is what's so interesting. On the right, we're seeing so many young conservatives start swaying and going and becoming groypers, which is, ultra America first, ultra white nationalists. And it's because they feel the system has left them too. On the left, we're seeing a lot of other people becoming a lot more, not just Democrats, but Democrats are starting to turn over now and becoming leftists. And there is a huge difference there. And both of the reasons it's happening, regardless of the fact they're polar opposites, both of the reasons we're getting such polarization here is because people feel like the system has left them and the system has failed them. And if you make people feel that way, they're going to seek alternatives. But what we see is both on the left and the right, people are getting mocked and disparaged for feeling that way. Even on the right, I'm seeing accounts, of course, Ben Shapiro, for example, Randy Fine, Mark Levine, however it is, going ahead and basically calling out the groypers and saying that the groypers will never represent the right. Well, a New York Times article just came out and said, and it was interviewing somebody at Capitol Hill, a conservative Republican on the Hill, and he said, just from his personal experience, that 30 to 40% of those on the Hill on the right under the age of 30 are groypers, identify as groypers. What's that telling you? The younger generation is fed up. We're seeing more polarization and people going to the extremes because the center fails them. And instead of telling those extremes that they're idiots, they're stupid, maybe actually listen to why they're deciding to become more polarized. And maybe if you listen to that, then you'll start to understand, okay, these are the reasons. Same thing with Zohran Mamdani. He's somebody that's coming forward with new ideas, because it seems like a lot of people feel that late stage capitalism has failed them. And if these people that are very pro-capitalist wanted to actually get people to understand, you wouldn't just go ahead and say these are stupid people. You would explain to them why capitalism is a good system, and explain to them what can be done in this current system to bring back capitalism that seems like there's more prospects for the future. But that isn't happening on both the left and the right. So this isn't just down to one party. Let's go through some of the comments here. You can kick the bucket. That would help Ackman. F. Hackman. Interesting. These dipshits should go live in bumfuck Arkansas. White mullet wearing sister. Yeah, and that just goes on and on. The groypers gripe loudest. Let's see here. F the billionaires in New York that tried to rig the election. Of course, people like Bill Ackman and who else? Bloomberg, Michael Bloomberg as well. It keeps going on and on. The Zio money couldn't keep him out of office. That's something that is honestly unprecedented in that way, and I think that's why we're seeing a huge neocon pro-Israel backlash at this, is because they're scared that now people are becoming elected not despite their anti-Israel stance, but because of it, because they're not bought out by the system. And being pro-Israel is starting to be conflated with being a billionaire. And that's probably one of the worst things you could do, because what you're starting to see is all of these neocon billionaires are pro-Israel. So there's definitely a tie there. And if you're an anti-billionaire, an anti, you don't want to feel like your politicians are bought out, well, it just makes sense that you would quickly become anti-Israel there. Let's see. However, capitalism is destructive without socialism. That's what FDR proved. Yeah, I think this is the thing, and I'm going to end here, as I was recently in Greece. I guess you could say Greece is a capitalist economy. The difference is there's a huge difference between late stage capitalism and standard capitalism before it gets too extreme. What we're seeing in the United States is anybody that wants to start a small business, anybody that wants to start a brick and mortar store, they have to always consider the fact that they're going to be competing with Amazon and competing with China. That this is unprecedented. You go back to 1980 and they didn't have to worry about competing with Amazon and China. Okay, because and that's what's difficult, is because now anybody can walk into a mom and pop store, and if they see something they want to purchase, well, all they have to do is pull up their Amazon app and see if they can get the exact same product for a cheaper price, or if they can get a better product for the same price. And that's what every small business owner has to worry about now. Every small business owner. So when you live in a place like that, it's so much more difficult for you to actually have a diversified market. When I was in Greece, I think they have some sort of Amazon alternative, and they do have Amazon. It doesn't seem like it was used as commonly. So while I would walk around, I would see like 10 different tech shops, like small mom and pop tech shops, all of these small mom and pop corner stores, literally on every single street, even the main busy streets. Very rarely did I actually see these, big mega corporations. And it seemed like, okay, there's a fair market here where somebody could start up a small store and feel like they have a good chance of actually winning and having a successful business. It doesn't feel like that as much now in America. I can't say it doesn't feel like that at all in America, but it doesn't feel like that as much as what it used to be. And that's why we're seeing so many people just honestly wanting some sort of better, different alternative. But anyways, Zohran Mamdani is the new mayor of New York. We'll see how things unfold moving forward. Please go ahead and click the subscribe button below. And also, I'd appreciate some super chats. Support my channel, help it grow. Just recently really started taking YouTube a bit more seriously. I'll see you guys later. Have a good day. Bye.